Shady's back, tell a friend. Guess who's back, guess who's back, guess who's back. I'm vengeance.
It's one of the coldest lines in The Batman. And it's also completely wrong. Not because Bruce Wayne is lying, not because he lacks conviction, but because he doesn't yet understand what happens when vengeance stops being personal and starts becoming a symbol. In The Batman, it seems as if Gotham never sleeps. Even at night, the city's going at it with steam in the engine and neon lights all over. Always forward, day and night. It also watches itself decay. From the very beginning, Bruce Wayne believes that he understands the city he's trying to save. Growing up in the city, experiencing some of the worst tragedies a person can live through, Bruce has knowledge about the grief machine that is Gotham. And with this knowledge, he believes Gotham is afraid, and that fear is the most honest language it understands. We witness in the opening of the movie that the criminals hesitate when they think they're being watched in the shadows, because Batman can lurk anywhere. The shadows feel heavier, and the night feels very occupied. So Bruce tells himself that this is enough. The presence alone can correct what the system has allowed to rot. When Batman says the phrase,
I'm vengeance,
it isn't a lie he tells himself. It's the conclusion Bruce has already reached before the film even begins. Vengeance, to him, it's not rage without reason. It's all about precision and direction. It's a controlled response to a city that no longer knows how to function without crime and corruption. He isn't trying to inflict random violence on some convenience store burglar. He's trying to convey targeted violence to threaten the idea of chaos that's spreading, choking it out of existence, so to speak. And that distinction matters deeply to him, even if it doesn't matter that much to Gotham as a whole. Because Gotham doesn't see Batman's intention about what he's trying to do. It does, however, open an eye towards a pretty little thing called permission. A masked figure with pointy ears delivering punishment from the darkness is what they see. A man who has decided that the system has failed and who acts accordingly. Batman believes he's sending a message to criminals and is stripping away their sense of injustice with fear and horror.
When that light hits the sky, it's not just a call, it's a warning to them.
But what he doesn't realize is that his personal message to crime itself doesn't stay contained. It doesn't arrive with footnotes and whatnot. Once it's released into the wild, it becomes a symbol. And we do indeed learn that symbols does not belong to the one that created it. This is where Batman's mistake comes to light later on. Not through his outgoing anger, but in his certainty.
I am quite certain I would remember if I had a best friend.
Throughout the movie, he believes that fear can be shaped into something clean and direct. That if he calibrates it carefully enough, it will only ever point in the right direction. But fear doesn't necessarily keep itself in check. It builds up, and then it keeps moving. Especially in a city that's already drowning in resentment and neglect. Fear doesn't disappear once it's put forward. It looks for someone to attach itself to, you could say. In The Batman, we learn early on that the Riddler is the villain of the movie. He's the one to shake things up in Gotham. And it seems that the Riddler is almost built entirely from the ground up. In this movie, he's not some overbearing quizmaster that demands your attention during a hostile Zoom meeting. He's out in the concrete jungle, taking care of business with tools and gadgets, getting his hands dirty. And interestingly enough, violence is in his heart. But most importantly, though, is that he's Batman's adversary. During the movie's runtime, we learn that he's a byproduct of Batman and his beliefs. Turns out that the Riddler and his followers have adopted Bruce's idea of air quote focused violence that's known by many at this point to be served as vengeance. We see that the Riddler relates to Batman and his goals. Or he thinks he does at least. Because in his eyes, he and Batman are on the same side of things, working together to serve vengeance upon the city. That's the uncomfortable truth the film refuses to soften to us. The Riddler doesn't twist Batman's philosophy into something unrecognizable. He takes it rather seriously. And literally, too. The Riddler reaches the same conclusions and simply removes the restraints that Batman believes makes all the difference. Both of them believe that corruption must be exposed. Both of them believe that anonymity creates clarity. Both see fear as a tool, and both justify violence morally. I mean,
corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture.
They're the same picture.
Bruce also learns at the end of the movie that he has gotten fan mail during the movie, instead of clues on how to catch the Riddler. He learns that they are not opposites at all. Not really. They are, in fact, parallels of each other. The difference between them is not ideology, but rather focus. Batman has a mission. The Riddler has an audience. And an audience doesn't really care why something started. It wants to know how far it can go. This is why the Riddler's followers are not a narrative twist or a sudden escalation. They are the logical endpoint of an unfocused and unfinished idea of violence. Batman thought he was acting alone, and thought that solitude made him more precise. But symbols doesn't really work that way. They replicate. They turn ideas into interpretation. And when that interpretation reaches people who feel unseen and unheard, it doesn't take much for vengeance to become the word of the day. The Arkham scene makes this fact impossible to ignore. It's quiet because nothing blows up or anything. There's no big showdown or dramatic reveal when these two vengeful icons meet face to face. All cards are laid down on the table, ever so neatly. There's just the two guys on opposite sides of the glass, saying the same things in slightly different tones. Along with this not-so-epic meetup, the Riddler isn't bragging, he isn't happy. He's more confused than anything. Because Batman doesn't understand what they've been building together. And in that moment, Bruce Wayne isn't staring at the madman. He's staring at a self-made reflection of himself, only slightly twisted. For the first time, the idea of fear and violence he created answers back to him. Batman believed that fear was a tool that could fix Gotham. Instead, fear became something else entirely. It turned into masked men with guns, repeating Batman's logic, only without his discipline. Violence is no longer a personal weapon he wields, no longer isolated for him alone to use. Begrudgingly so, it is shared. It's organized even. And somehow justified through repetition of murder and mayhem. This is what happens when a symbol is powerful, but also very much incomplete. When the idea communicates action without responsibility, its purpose leads to a lack of boundaries. After the Riddler is caught, Batman figures out the last puzzle. Bombs are planted all around the city, and Gotham's alarm screams louder than shotguns when the city floods. All in the name of vengeance. Batman is forced into a role he has avoided this entire film. He can no longer stalk the rooftops. He can't intimidate fearful criminals. He can't even strike from the shadows. He has to be seen, in broad daylight, for everyone to see. Okay, let's talk about the flare scene for a moment. This is where Batman takes the first, but possibly the biggest step towards a new and refined role in his crime-fighting career. The times, they are changing. The flare scene is not a victory lap. It's more of a correction. Batman slows down, he stands in the open. He chose to lead the people instead of hunting the predators that usually prey on them. In this moment, fear gives in to the idea that trust is a must. The distance Bruce felt like he had to keep changes into the fact that he has to get close in order to have the effect he wants to achieve. The symbol finally changes shape. Not because it becomes weaker or anything, but because it becomes clear that it needs to change in order for it to be realized. Batman doesn't stop being a figure of fear, but he also becomes an image of direction and of hope. This is why the ending of The Batman works so well. It allows its hero to be wrong the entire movie without tearing him down completely. The film understands that growth doesn't come from rejecting who you were. It comes from recognizing the damage your certainty has caused. Gotham isn't saved, not even close. But something shifts. For the first time, Batman understands that being a symbol isn't about dominating the night. It's about what happens when people begin to follow you. Vengeance stops speaking only in threats and starts speaking in presence.
I'm vengeance.
Wasn't wrong. It was just unfinished. By the end of the film, Bruce doesn't abandon the identity he built, he refines it. He realizes that fear without direction creates something worse than the crime it tried to fight. That a symbol released into a broken city doesn't stay controlled, but it evolves. And if it evolves without responsibility, it multiplies. The question is no longer whether Batman can scare criminals, it's whether he can carry what he has inspired. This may be my favorite part of the whole shebang. Hope isn't louder than violence. It never has been. Violence is tempting. It feels powerful. It feels final.
Is the dark side stronger?
No, but the easier, more seductive.
But hope asks something much harder. It asks you to stay, to be seen, to carry the weight of what you've inspired. And that is far more difficult than saying,
I'm vengeance.
and disappearing into the dark. That's all I had for today. Thank you very much for watching. I very much appreciate it. Fare thee well for now.